Welcome to From Manuscript to Ministry, created and produced by Elder William Moore, the podcast where faith meets the written word. Each week, your hosts David and Martha dive into powerful, self-published books by Christian authors who are boldly using their God-given voices to impact the kingdom. Whether you're an aspiring writer, a reader seeking spiritual growth, or a ministry leader in search of authentic resources, this is your space to be inspired, encouraged, and equipped. Let's explore today's featured book and uncover the life-changing message behind the manuscript.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is the place where we take the sources you bring us, your notes, your research, your blueprints for insight, and we really try to turn them into immediate actionable knowledge.
Exactly.
You're here for that shortcut to being, comprehensively well-informed. And today, we have something. Well, it's a surprisingly robust tactical map for what I'd call inner engineering.
I love that term, inner engineering, because today we really are doing a deep dive that it looks past all the superficial demands of the marketplace, all the noise, and it focuses instead on internal architecture.
Right.
We're taking a spiritual blueprint for inner transformation, and we're just going to extract the most practical, the most repeatable wisdom about how to build, sustainable joy and deep resilience.
So this is less about some high-level abstract strategy.
Oh, much less. It's more about the daily psychological warfare against burnout. That's what this is.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Our source material today is focused on these excerpts that are all centered around, quote, number 15 from William Moore's devotional, Proverbs 31. Empowering quotes for everyday motivation.
Mm-hmm.
And the text, it frames itself as a guide.
Yeah.
It's calling the reader to rise in strength, character, grace, and wisdom. I mean, it's a complete life model.
It is. And at the very heart of this wisdom, the thing that really anchors the entire devotional is the statement we are here to analyze.
Which is?
She cultivates a grateful heart, finding joy in the simplest of moments and blessings.
That quote is so deceptive in its simplicity. I think if you just read it quickly, it just sounds like a pleasant platitude, right? Be thankful, be happy.
Just another nice saying on a coffee mug.
Exactly. But our mission here, and it's dictated by the comprehensive nature of the source material, is to show that this is far more than just a nice feeling.
Precisely. We are moving entirely past that passive notion of just feeling thankful when, a big promotion or some obvious external success lands in your lap. Right. We are analyzing gratitude as a deliberate spiritual weapon, a strategic choice, and frankly, the only sustainable source of radiant, weatherproof joy.
Okay, weatherproof joy. I like that.
Yeah. The core aha moment that we really want you, the learner, to walk away with today is the fundamental distinction between that passive, fleeting emotion and active, rigorous cultivation.
There's that word again, cultivation.
This intentional daily process.
Yeah.
That is the true engine of resilience.
All right, so let's jump straight into that intentionality then, because the word cultivates is clearly not incidental. It's foundational.
It's everything.
It immediately shifts the whole concept of gratitude from being like a spontaneous happy accident into a disciplined ongoing rigor.
Absolutely. When the source uses the term cultivates, it's invoking the language of agriculture. And agriculture is inherently patient, it's labor-intensive, and it is profoundly proactive.
You can't be a reactive farmer.
You can't. Gratitude in this model is not a weed that just grows naturally wherever. It is a precious, deliberate crop. The source draws a direct comparison to tending a garden or a farmer working the soil day in and day out.
The analogy is just perfect. I mean, a garden requires discipline, right? Constant effort, intentional application of energy. You can't just scatter the seeds of good intentions and hope for the best.
Yeah, and you have to prepare the ground. You have to. You have to address the soil composition, water it regularly, and constantly prune and pull the weeds.
And you have to be vigilant about it.
And critically, you have to choose what you are going to cultivate. That's the key. Because if you stop tending the garden of your mind, the weeds of discontent, anxiety, and comparison, they don't take a break.
They don't wait for you.
They proliferate immediately. So the source frames this cultivation as a proactive daily choice. It's almost like a necessary defense mechanism.
But let's introduce some friction here, because I think this is where people get stuck. In the face of a busy, demanding life, you've got tight deadlines, unexpected expenses, conflict at home. Where do you even find the energy to cultivate? I mean, it just sounds like another chore on the to-do list. Isn't it just easier to react?
And that's the brilliance of the source's framing. It argues that this intentional cultivation is necessary precisely because of the environment we live in. The source material identifies the core problem of our modern, distracted, consumer-driven world,
Okay.
which is that the environment constantly reinforces a narrative of lack. It is always demanding more, more, more.
We are conditioned for the gap. That's what you're saying.
Yes.
We're trained by advertising, by the endless scroll on social media, by comparison, and often by our own ambition to look solely at the distance between where we are today and where we think we should be.
The next title, the next house, the next vacation.
Right. Always the next thing.
It creates a perpetual state of deficit. And if your psychological baseline is always the gap, you are perpetually operating from a position of insufficiency. And that is exhausting.
It has to be. It means every achievement is instantly devalued because the goalposts have already moved before you even get there.
You never arrive.
So the cultivation of a grateful heart isn't some leisure activity for when you have free time. It's a counter strategy.
It's a counter strategy. It's the radical act of opting out of the scarcity mindset that our culture just pushes on us relentlessly.
And the solution offered here is that through this active cultivation, a person finds profound contentment in what already is.
What already is.
Yes.
The source specifically defines this shift, this ability to recognize sufficiency and abundance in the present moment as true wisdom.
Not just knowledge. Wisdom.
Wisdom. It's an internal recalibration. You stop staring at the gap and you start inventorying the ground you're actually standing on.
So wisdom, in this view, isn't just about accumulating external data or facts. It's the learned ability to find peace and sufficiency within your current circumstance, whatever it is.
That's the absolute essence of it. And the immediate tangible benefit of achieving this internal shift is that you gain the ability to find joy in the simple.
Okay.
You stop waiting with the blockbuster event, the massive bonus, the retirement announcement, the external validation, and you train your heart, you literally train it, to notice joy in the small, micro details of daily existence.
What are some of these specific, simple moments that the source highlights?
Yeah.
And why is focusing on them so strategically important?
Well, the examples that are provided are deliberately accessible. They're universally available, which is what makes them so powerful. The source mentions things like sunrises, a child's laughter.
Things anyone can access.
For anyone. It talks about the specific, quiet feeling of an answered prayer, and even just the peace of a quiet moment. These are micro joys that require your presence, not your purchase.
Okay, but let's push back on this again because I want to make this real. If I'm facing serious financial pressure, how is noticing a beautiful sunrise supposed to help me pay the mortgage? Doesn't this border on, just distraction from real-world problems?
That is a critical question, and the source addresses it by focusing on resilience, not avoidance. It's not about ignoring the mortgage. Think of it this way. If your joy is rooted solely in the massive, complex, or expensive things that can be instantly taken away by market shifts or external failures, then your joy is inherently fragile.
It's built on sand.
It's built on sand. It cannot sustain pressure.
Yeah.
If your happiness is dependent on a specific stock price, you are, by definition, emotionally volatile.
Right, you're just a puppet of the market.
Exactly. So by rooting your joy in these universally available common experiences, that quiet moment that only requires your presence, you build an internal joy structure that is highly weatherproof. This is strategic resilience.
So it's about where your foundation is.
It's all about the foundation. And furthermore, the source argues that actively choosing to stop and notice that sunrise is a choice to reject the endless, distracting pressure to do more or acquire more. It's an act of recentering. And that act allows you to approach the mortgage problem from a place of sufficiency and stability rather than from a place of desperation.
It stabilizes your emotional core so you can apply rational thought to the big problems.
That's it. So cultivating gratitude in the simple isn't spiritual bypassing. It's the emotional, foundational work that makes the big challenges manageable. You build strength from the small victories of just being present.
Okay, that makes so much sense. That establishes the intentionality and the practical goal. These micro joys creating macro resilience. So let's pivot now to the philosophical and actionable foundation for this mindset. The source material roots this entire philosophy in a deep scriptural context.
Yes, and this is vital because understanding these biblical foundations, it moves the concept of gratitude from just a nice self-help suggestion to a mandated, proven practice that's designed for maximum human flourishing, especially under duress.
It tells us how this practice is sustained when life gets truly, truly difficult.
Exactly.
So let's start with lesson 1. Contentment in circumstance. The source references Philippians 4, verses 11 to 13, where the Apostle Paul says he has learned the secret of being content in any and every circumstance.
Well, learning the secret. And this is just a powerhouse statement, particularly when we consider the context. I mean, we have to remember where he was.
He wasn't on a beach somewhere.
No. Paul was writing this while he was imprisoned, often chained to a Roman guard, facing a completely uncertain future, potentially execution.
Yeah.
This wasn't written from a Mediterranean villa on vacation.
And the source material is very keen to point this out, that this immediately dispels the myth that contentment is just some static personality trait, or that it's a luxury only available to the fortunate.
Correct. Paul didn't just wake up one morning and find contentment in his stocking. He learned it. He says it. I have learned. The source defines this as gratitude in motion, a state achieved through rigorous practice, spiritual discipline, and active application.
Not a passive response.
Not a passive response to favorable conditions. The logic is, if a person facing chains and hunger and, death can learn it, then a person facing bills and deadlines certainly can.
It suggests that contentment is the ultimate executive skill. It's something that's refined over time and often forged in the fires of actual hardship. I mean, if Paul could maintain his stability, whether he had much or little, hungry or well-fed, it proves that the source of his resilience was entirely internal. It was unshakable.
And the knowledge gained here for you, for the learner, is the absolute capacity to adapt. The implication is profound. If this is a learned secret, then it can be taught, it can be practiced, and it can be mastered.
It's a skill.
It's a skill. Resilience in this model isn't just about surviving a difficult period, but maintaining a stable, grateful posture while you're navigating that period. That adaptability, that internal self-sufficiency, is the defining characteristic of true inner strength.
Okay, moving to lesson 2. The source uses Psalm 100, which famously instructs us to, quote, enter his gates with thanksgiving and his courts with praise. And this entirely redefines the function and the timing of gratitude.
Absolutely. The source elaborates that gratitude is redefined here not merely as a response to a positive outcome or even to God's presence, as in, oh, thank you for this blessing that just arrived.
Not after the fact.
Not after the fact.
Yeah.
Instead, thanksgiving is positioned as the actual entry point into the desired state or engagement. It is the key that unlocks the door.
So if I want to feel connection, or I want to feel peace, or I want to engage with my highest self or my spiritual source, whatever that may be, I don't wait until I feel peaceful.
No.
I initiate the process with the gratitude I can muster right now.
Exactly. Gratitude sets the posture for the engagement. Think about it. If you approach any interaction, be it a spiritual one or walking into a difficult meeting at work, or simply facing the new day, if you approach it with the default posture of complaint or lack or fear, you effectively close yourself off to finding solutions or finding peace.
You're setting the terms of the engagement right there.
You are. But starting with gratitude, with the acknowledgement of provision that already exists, you immediately place yourself in a position of receiving and acknowledgement. This intentional posture is what allows those simple moments we were just talking about to actually be noticed and registered as blessings. You've prepared your internal receptor for goodness.
And that leads us perfectly into lesson 3, which the source material holds up as maybe the most nuanced and vital distinction for practicing gratitude in daily stress. It's from 1 Thessalonians 5.18. And I want to highlight the source's emphasis on the precise phrasing here. It says, give thanks in all circumstances.
And that tiny 2-letter preposition, in, is the entire structural difference between sustainable faith and, frankly, self-delusion. The source is explicitly differentiating this instruction from thanking God for everything. We really have to spend some time on this nuance.
Why is that so critical?
Because if the instruction was to thank God for the circumstances, for the job loss, for the illness, for the betrayal, that would be spiritually and psychologically unsound. It would be a denial of the reality of suffering.
It would be perverse and dishonest. You'd be lying to yourself.
Completely. And the source is adamant that we are not required or expected to thank the universe for pain or loss, but we are commanded to find a grateful heart in the middle of it. And that choice shifts the entire emotional landscape of the difficulty.
Okay, so how does that look in practice? Let's use a real-world example, and let's just divorce it from spiritual terms for a moment. Let's say I'm facing a major project failure at work. I can't thank my boss for the failure. That would be absurd.
Of course not. But you can choose to be thankful in the failure. That choice of in helps shift your focus away from what you perceive as lacking or painful or unjust, which is the circumstance itself, and it directs your attention toward resources, provision, and existing capacities that are still there.
Okay, so for my project failure, being thankful in the circumstance might mean what?
It might mean being thankful for the loyal team members who stuck it out with you to the end. It might mean being thankful for the lesson you learn, a hard lesson, but one that will save you millions on the next project.
Right.
It might mean being thankful for the ability to start fresh, unburdened by past decisions that didn't work, or, even more simply, being thankful for the roof over your head and the health you have to fight another day.
So it's the conscious act of inventorying the remaining light and resources, even when the primary shadow is deep and dark. It's the difference between acknowledging reality and being completely defined by it.
That's it. The grateful heart is capable of holding both truths simultaneously. This situation is painful, and I still have things to be thankful for. It rejects the zero-sum thinking that says, if things are bad, then nothing is good.
That dual reality is a sign of maturity.
It is the definition of maturity and emotional stability provided in the source.
This philosophical mandate it's really robust.
Yeah.
But now we have to confront the reality that the source brings up. The theory is useless without application. Maintaining gratitude is incredibly difficult amid the daily, grinding stressors.
It is.
The source acknowledges the overwhelm, the bills, the kids, the sheer velocity of modern life.
And the authors recognized that. They knew that if gratitude is a cultivated field, it has to be tended daily. It can't be reactive. It has to become a rhythm. Therefore, the focus shifts entirely to the practical, repeatable habits required to maintain that fertile ground.
Okay, let's delve into those specific, detailed habits suggested for cultivating gratitude, like a farmer does soil. I want to explore these in depth, starting with what the source calls the 3 essential inward disciplines.
Okay, so first and foremost is the role of the gratitude journal. And this is not just a diary. The source frames it as the tangible external evidence of your internal work. It is an inventory of provision that combats the corrosive effect of forgetting small blessings.
But how should you, the listener, actually use this journal, especially if you're time-crunched or just feeling completely overwhelmed? What are the mechanics that make it more than just a place to vent positive thoughts?
The source implies a very focused surgical approach. It's recommended to log specific, and this is important, non-material blessings, maybe 3 to 5 things, either first thing in the morning or last thing before bed.
And the how is key here.
The how is everything. Instead of writing something generic like, I am thankful for my family, the source advocates writing, I am thankful for the 5 minutes of uninterrupted laughter with my daughter today, or I am thankful for that unexpected compliment from my colleague. Specificity is the tool.
That focus on the specific and the non-material is crucial. It forces the brain out of autopilot. Psychologists have confirmed this. It combats the negativity bias, which is our brain's natural tendency to overweight bad news. The journal provides a documented, specific counter-narrative. It forces your conscious mind to recall and reinforce positive realities. It literally rewires your cognitive pathways.
The second inward discipline the source advocates for is incorporating morning worship, or even just a designated time for reflection and acknowledgement. This sets the tone and the posture for the entire day.
And the purpose here isn't just about spiritual adherence, is it?
Not at all.
Yeah.
It's a psychological preemptive strike. By prioritizing acknowledgement and reverence first thing, you preemptively fight the inevitable tendency to start the day already overwhelmed by the task list or the urgent demands of your inbox. It reorients yourself toward peace before the chaos even begins.
And then the third inward discipline is, for me, perhaps the most challenging in terms of habit change.
Yeah.
Practicing the spiritual posture of saying thank you before asking for anything.
This is a profound shift in internal energy. It fundamentally alters the relationship between you and the world, or you and your creator. Instead of the conversation starting from a place of deficiency, I need X, Y, and Z because I lack them, it begins from a place of appreciation.
I acknowledge the abundance of A, B, and C that I already have, and I trust that X is also possible.
Exactly. It anchors your request or your goal setting in the acknowledgement of past faithfulness or past provision rather than in the pain of current need. It reinforces that core mindset that provision already exists.
So if you're facing a massive sales goal this quarter,
approaching it from a place of gratitude for your existing client base, for the past successes of your team, is vastly different from approaching it from a place of panic about the gap. It makes the request or the goal an extension of faith and strength rather than an expression of desperation.
It's a powerful tool for stress management because it forces you to recall your established resources.
That's it.
Now, what's particularly powerful about Moore's work, I think, is that it doesn't allow gratitude to remain purely an internal experience. It mandates an outward flow. The inner shift must become external action. It has to change the atmosphere around you. This is what the source refers to as gratitude as ministry.
And ministry here simply means service that is driven by acknowledgement. It involves consciously using your cultivated attention to positively affect the lives of the people around you.
So the first simple action it suggests is saying grace before a meal. This seems, I don't know, almost like a throwback to a simpler time. But what is the practical impact of that in a fast-paced environment?
The source views this as a powerful cultural disruptor. It forces a mandatory pause. It disrupts the automatic consumption pattern that characterizes so much of modern life. It forces you to acknowledge the source of provision, whether you see that as spiritual, economic, or simply the hard work of the people who prepared the food.
Even in a business context.
Especially in a business context. If you pause for a collective moment of thanks at a team lunch, you are demanding collective presence. You're pulling everyone out of their frantic thought patterns and into the present moment, which increases connection.
And the second action, which ties directly back to cultivating those simple moments, is complimenting someone intentionally.
This is the external manifestation of having trained your eye to notice joy in the simplest of moments. If you are actively cultivating your heart to notice the small details of a sunrise, you are naturally training your attention to notice the good in other people.
The small efforts.
The small efforts, the kind gestures, the specific resilience they demonstrate under pressure that usually goes unnoticed.
How does this active noticing benefit someone's professional life, though, beyond just being a nice person?
This is where the pragmatic application really shines. A leader who consistently expresses genuine, specific gratitude for small contributions demonstrates superior attentiveness and detail orientation. It signals that nothing escapes their notice. And this leads to, I think, 3 things. First, improved leadership. Your subordinates feel seen, which leads to higher trust and loyalty because their daily grind is being recognized. Second, better team morale. The environment becomes defined by positive reinforcement, not a fear of failure. And third, a sharper focus. The very practice of noticing simple efforts sharpens the leader's overall focus, making them less likely to miss critical small data points that might indicate major trends or risks.
So when the source material makes this bold claim that these outward actions empower everyone around us, it's because the grateful person takes the time to notice the little things that everyone else, in their rush, just ignores.
Exactly. In a purely transactional world, a world where you are only recognized for hitting massive targets, being seen and honored for your inherent worth or your small daily contribution is rare, and it's deeply empowering.
It reinforces dignity.
It's the ultimate opposite of a transactional interaction. When you compliment someone specifically and genuinely, you're providing a value that is non-transferable and non-refundable. It's a pure gift.
When gratitude becomes an outward discipline, then it genuinely changes the atmosphere from one of scarcity and competition to one of appreciation and sufficiency. And that creates a psychologically safe and fertile environment for growth.
Precisely.
We've built the case from the foundational definition of cultivation through its roots in wisdom and resilience and into these practical daily habits. So now let's synthesize all this and address the ultimate question. What is the comprehensive transformation this blueprint promises? What does the learner get out of all this daily effort?
The promise is holistic. It really is. The choice of gratitude transforms the individual internally, and as a result, it fundamentally revolutionizes their external environment. The daily rhythm and choice of thankfulness fuel 2 core interrelated attributes: spiritual maturity and resilience.
Okay, let's define spiritual maturity in this specific context.
Yeah.
What does that mean here?
It is the learned ability to handle complex and difficult circumstances with internal grace and stability, regardless of how pleasant or unpleasant those circumstances are externally. It's the recognition that your internal state is not hostage to external volatility. You own your weather.
And resilience.
Yeah.
The ability to not just survive pressure, but to maintain and reclaim peace even when you're facing significant stress or distraction.
Yes, and the source makes it very clear that the grateful heart is not impervious to pain. That's not the goal. It still feels the pressure, it recognizes the danger, but its foundation, which is rooted in appreciation for what already is, allows it to bend without breaking. It knows precisely where its true, inexhaustible resources lie.
The source material is very explicit about this transformative power. It assigns the grateful heart three distinct, powerful roles, what it calls the three pillars of power. Gratitude is defined as a pillar of strength, a force of healing, and a mirror of God's grace. We have to break these pillars down.
Let's start with pillar one. Gratitude as a pillar of strength. And this strength isn't, brute physical force. It's moral and emotional stability. It's the ability to support weight. A pillar supports a structure.
And what forces is this pillar supporting us against?
It supports the individual against the constant erosion of self-worth caused by comparison. It supports you against the anxiety driven by economic uncertainty and against the paralyzing fear of the unknown. If your internal support structure is based on a constantly updated, documented appreciation for what you have and who you are, it becomes unshakable.
It prevents external circumstances from causing a psychological or emotional collapse.
Yes, this intentional focus on provision gives you, the individual, agency and stability, which is the definition of true strength in this model.
Okay, pillar two. Gratitude is a force of healing. We discussed the cognitive shift away from the negativity bias. How does this consistent focus on blessing translate into actual healing?
The source links this to psychological repair. By consistently directing your attention to provision and blessing, the grateful heart actively repairs the deep emotional wounds caused by chronic comparison or deep-seated resentment or paralyzing anxiety. It's like internal emotional first aid administered daily.
And there's a physiological component too, isn't there?
Absolutely. When you are consciously grateful, you trigger a sense of peace and contentment. This state reverses the chronic fight-or-flight stress response that modern life constantly induces. So when you are at peace, your body and your mind can shift resources away from defense and toward repair. The healing is simultaneously spiritual, repairing broken trust, and physiological, restoring hormonal and cognitive balance.
And finally, pillar three. Gratitude as a mirror of God's grace. This ties everything back to the source material's theological and philosophical foundation.
It does. If the individual had made that conscious choice to recognize the provision given to them, the simplest of moments and blessings, they are actively reflecting the acknowledgement of unearned favor, which is the definition of grace.
So the grateful person doesn't just receive grace passively.
No, they become a reflector of it, an amplifier. And this creates a cascade effect. The more grace they reflect, the more they change the external atmosphere, which, as we established earlier, empowers and blesses everyone around them. They move from being just a consumer of grace to being a generator of positive, appreciative energy.
This brings us to the final, comprehensive summary of the source's core thesis then. This blueprint for inner transformation moves the individual from a state of reactive existence to a state of proactive power.
The ultimate takeaway is unambiguous. Cultivating gratitude in the everyday and the moment amid the difficulty is not weakness or naivete. It is the highest form of strategic wisdom. It is a strategic choice that provides a comprehensive blueprint for inner transformation, establishing a self-sustaining foundation of joy that operates regardless of external conditions.
It ensures your stability is sourced internally. That truly was a deep dive. We started with a simple, beautiful quote about finding joy, and we ended up with a complex, tactical manual for building resilience, emotional stability, and generating sustainable, outward-flowing joy.
It really just proves that the most powerful transformation often lies hidden in the most deceptively simple, often overlooked daily choices. The simple act of noticing is revolutionary.
As we close out this deep dive, let's internalize that core instruction that really sets the stage for change. You must actively choose sufficiency. Don't wait for someday blessings or hold your joy hostage until the big external event happens. Find the joy right here, right now, in the moment you are in.
And remember the strategic context we established early on. A grateful heart, actively cultivated, is your most effective spiritual weapon. It is the ultimate defense against the corrosive forces of overwhelm, distraction, and the world's endless, draining demand for more, more, more. It is the constant, proactive reclamation of peace.
And here is a provocative thought for you to mull over this week, drawing directly from the blueprint we analyzed today. Since the source material states that intentional gratitude changes the atmosphere and empowers everyone around you, if focusing on the simplest moments, the sunrise, the unexpected laughter, the non-material small blessing yields such powerful outward effects, how drastically can your committed, intentional attention reshape the way you perceive and navigate your immediate reality this week? Go out there and cultivate your joy.
Until next time on The Deep Dive.
Thank you for joining us today on From Manuscript to Ministry. If today's featured book encouraged, challenged, or inspired you, we invite you to take the next step, purchase a copy, and support the author behind the message. When you invest in their work, you're not just buying a book, you're sowing into good ground and helping advance the kingdom of God through faith-filled storytelling. Don't forget to subscribe, follow, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who needs it. Your support helps these powerful voices reach even further. Until next time, keep reading, keep writing, keep praying, and keep walking boldly in your calling. God is still turning manuscripts into ministries.